Hi there, Josh here. Welcome to Frames Per Second. Today we are here in Melbourne and we're just going to go around and shoot some street. So we're shooting some Ilford XP2 Super push 2-stop. So let's see how we go. Like we said, we're pushing Ilford XP2 Super 2 stops, which is something I haven't done before. And I often have been told that it doesn't push well, but I kind of disagree. I really love the look of it pushed, even though like you do lose a fair bit of shadow detail. I really love the richness of the blacks, and I just think the contrast is fantastic, and also the fact that it's C41, if you use a lab to develop, it's a lot cheaper than developing black and white film. And this photo in particular, I really love the contrast of. I do kind of wish I went for her to breathe out the smoke, but yeah, I was trying not to be too sus. But yeah, I really love the look of it pushed. I think it's a fine film, as is at box speed, but I think it's a really nice looking film when you push it. And it is a film that I use like if I'm just trying to like save money on development or just want it done a bit faster, because a lot of labs that you use will do black and white all on one day, while C41 they do throughout the whole week. That's kind of one of the main reasons I do use XP2 Super. I don't know why I took this photo in particular, but yeah, I don't know, it's kind of random. And particularly with my Melbourne trip, using my Canon P, just with this shoot, I was testing out my Voigtlander 35mm 1.7, and the throw between 15 feet and infinity is really small for some reason. And so if you're focusing on anything in between those distances, it kind of just jumps to infinity really, and so things aren't particularly in focus. And like that's the one negative of the lens, because it is quite a nice lens and quite sharp. But yeah, so for this Melbourne trip, I was mostly shooting black and white films at 1600 or above. That was mostly just so I could use a higher f-stop so that they would be more in focus. So I was going more for a deeper focus so that things would actually look in focus. And particularly because Melbourne is quite cloudy, especially in the winter, which is when I was there. And yeah, I thought that this actually pushed a lot better than I was expecting, because like there'd been people in the past that told me it doesn't push particularly well. But honestly, I really love the contrast. This shot in particular is my favorite of the roll. I think it's like a really lovely shot. And yeah, here you can just see the richness of the blacks. It does remind me a little bit of Fuji Neopan 400, which was kind of a nice in-between of HP5 and Tri-X, and this has kind of like a similar look, particularly with the blacks, which are really nice and rich. But of course, with the pushing process, you do lose a bit more shadow detail, but this day was actually surprisingly sunny, so there wasn't a huge loss of shadow detail, especially when we're outside. There are some interior shots that do lose a bit of detail that I would like a bit more of, but yeah, for the most part, it pushes really well in my opinion, and I really love the contrast of it. It had honestly been quite a while since I've shot black and white, particularly on 35mm. I do it more often in 120, but yeah, it had honestly been quite a while. And when I travel, I do like to have one camera loaded with color and one with black and white, just because when I do have only one camera and it's loaded with color, I always run into shots that I think would have looked amazing in black and white. And when you're traveling, you're not exactly going to get another chance to be in that place. I honestly recommend carrying multiple cameras, as long as you don't have a terrible back, but I also think that this is probably a reason why I do have a terrible back now. But that is why it's important to have a good backpack for your cameras, and don't have it hanging too low. Have it hanging a bit higher, just so that yeah, you're not wrecking your lower back. I do kind of wish I did get a bit closer with quite a few of these shots, but that's kind of what happens when you're shooting a 35mm and trying to keep things candid. There are quite a few shots I do wish I had a 50mm for, but this trip I was kind of trying to at least limit the amount of lenses I brought. But I knew the 35mm would be a lot more versatile and more useful in more situations than having a 50mm. My previous trip I took a 50mm, but yeah, this trip I wanted to play with the 35 a bit more, just because like back in Brisbane I hadn't really been using my rangefinder that much, and so I thought, yeah, this would be a great chance to do it. But for the most part, I love the way the blacks of XP2 are when pushed 2 stops. But going by these images, I do think 2 stops is the most I would want to push it. I think maybe going 3 stops might be a bit too much. Yeah, like this shot here, you lose a lot of detail in the shadows. But I do still quite like the contrast here as well. You lose a lot of detail as well, and so I did have to bring that up a little bit in post. Yeah, the film pushes quite well. I would definitely recommend giving it a go, especially because it is cheaper to get C41 developed at a lab if you don't develop yourself. Here we have the tent of a homeless person, and on the sign it's talking about how the government keeps moving his stuff whenever he goes for a walk. And so I thought it was like maybe something kind of worth looking into and supporting this person on the South Bank. But they weren't at the tent at the time, it was just their dog looking after their stuff. There is a bit of a housing crisis going on in Melbourne. There are so many people looking for apartments, units, just like anything. And like, yeah, when people are going to open houses, there's lines that are very long just looking for a place. And so yeah, I just thought maybe that was something to kind of put a little spotlight on. But yeah, it's been quite a bit of a thing in Australia in general. A lot of people are looking for places to live and not necessarily being able to find them. Hope you like the videos. Please let me know your thoughts on the film, the images, cameras, and the comments below. Feel free to like and subscribe to us, post notifications sooner when there's a new episode. Anyway, I'm Josh. This has been FramesPerSecond. Get out there, shoot some film.